It's another review, Tower of Dawn. I'm going to try and make it so much shorter than my Empire of Storms one, because my Empire of Storms video was so flipping long. Also, I'm not shutting the window. I'm sorry if you hear all these noises. It's a little windy outside. It's just, it gets a bit hot in here if it's not open, okay? So, let's get into it. Tower of Dawn. I'm just for like reference, I don't actually know how the series ends yet because I'm still like about halfway through Kingdom of Ash, so I don't really know what's happened yet. But yeah, Tower of Dawn is, so you know how Empire of Storms, I said at the start that they're both Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storm are linked, so it's like the events are occurring simultaneously. And so what had happened was at the end of Heir of Fire? I don't even know what the names of the books are anymore. Queen of Shadows. There's a split, and so this is looking at the others. So we're looking at Cole and Nezrin. I'm gonna call him Cole. I don't know how you say it. I originally thought it was Chowell, and I was like, no one can get me to stop calling him Chowell. I think it might be Cole. Anyway, Cole and Nezrin have also. I have this like real draw to Nezrin's character, and I don't know why, although there were some things that were happening in this book and I was like, what the hell. The whole like, this book kind of turns everything on its head because they're showing you like a whole new like system of like people and a lot of new like creatures and things, and like new royals are introduced, so it can get a little bit confusing, but that's I guess why it's like a 7 to 8 book series. Eight, I think. Anyway, so Cole and Nezrin have travelled south to Antica because they're going to find a healer that's going to heal Cole's spine because he injured it during the like war with the Valg people. But they're also going to see if they can get some allies from that area. If you don't already know, I think I might mention it in the notes a little bit later, but Nezrin is actually supposed to be like her family originates from that southern continent or whatever, and so she feels like that, like her father and everyone is from there. And there's a lot of discourse in this book about sort of like immigration and migration and like how people, they were treated differently in Ardalan because they looked different because they were from like a different continent. I think they're supposed to be like almost like Arab or like South Asian vibes, and you kind of get that with their like names and stuff too. Anyway, when they go there, they see white cloths are hanging from like windows and stuff in the city, and obviously because Nezrin knows this culture, she explains that that means somebody really important has died, and so they go straight to the palace and they go to see the Kargan. Kargan is basically like the king of that area, and then we find out when we get there that as like how their whole system works, which is that the Kargan is going to name one of his children, he's got 6 children, the heir, and but even when he's done that, it's like basically traditional, or is very likely that whoever like the others can basically be like, oh, I want to, or even if they don't want to challenge, they might be killed because they don't want anyone competing for the throne. So it's like some of these kids are going to die. They're not children, but you know what I mean, like they're going to be killed. But that's like how their traditions work down in Antica. Anyway, the Kargan and the rest of the royal family, they meet Cole and Nezrin. Cole's giving like jewels and stuff as a gift, and then the Kargan said that he's heard about Aelin and he knows that there's a war happening in the north, and he also knows that they want him to join. And then the Kargan says, well, we don't really need your jewels and stuff like that, and you should have, my daughter got married and you guys didn't send jewels then. And then Cole's like, oh, we're kind of at war, so we didn't know, but we didn't, I'm not sure if I also say this later, but the reason that they're hanging the white cloths is because the Kargan's youngest daughter has died, and they're still in mourning, and they're like, oh, you didn't hear? And they're like, oh, sorry, we were at war, we didn't know. Anyway, but the Kargan says to Cole, you can go to the tour the tower basically, where the healers are for your injury. We don't turn away people who are injured. And yeah, it's one of the Kargan's children, Prince Sartak? I don't know how to say his name. That the Kargan's youngest daughter, Tumalun, has died because she fell off the balcony. And then the Kargan tells Cole and Nesrin that Rifthold has fallen because they left before they even knew that. And then Cole's really worried about Dorian, but Nesrin's worried about her family because they're still there. And one of the Kargan's other sons, called Prince Kashin, tells Kargan that the healers have really great abilities and they've seen injuries like that before and they should be okay. And Kashin also tells Cole that he doesn't think that his sister fell from the balcony and that she was killed, and that one of the reasons that he's kind of happy that to allow Cole to be around them and like stay in their palace and stuff is because it's like like another set of eyes, an outward perspective, because he's like, something's wrong, we just don't know it, we're all blinded by like our associations and relations with our family, so we need to know, like, maybe you can figure it out, maybe you can see what you hear. Anyway, now introducing Yeren Towers. Now Yeren was introduced in Assassin's Blade, so we have seen her before. If you do not remember, she was the barmaid that was working, and Aelin, or Selena she was at the time, taught her some self-defense and stuff like that, and then gave her this like amulet or like some type of jewel so that she could leave and go where she wanted to practice being a healer. Anyway, so she's working now at the Tor as a healer, and she's essentially the deputy healer to the healer of the High Hafisa, and when we start this book, we're basically getting to where Yeren is like, okay, I'm a healer now and I want to go back to Ardalan and I want to heal people, especially if there's a war coming. And Hafisa is like, I think you're very powerful and I want you to she's like an heir apparent, basically. She wants her to take over from her or be her second until she can't be the healer in the High anymore. But Yeren is like, I kind of need to leave. But there's a lot of discourse going on around like, oh, you think they're going to let you leave? Like, and they're like, you think they're going to stop me? Basically, one of the Kargan's sons, which is Kashin, really likes Yeren. We'll get more into that a little bit later. Anyway, Hafisa says to Yeren, okay, well, before you leave, you need to heal Cole. Yeren is a bit like, I don't want to heal anyone who like works for the king of Ardalan, la la, because she knows like the previous king of Ardalan who was like really evil. But Yeren does what she's supposed to do, professional as you should be. The profession goes. The professionalism does fade at some point. You'll see anyway. And she goes to Cole's room for his first session, and she's not very patient with him because he served the old king, and the old king is essentially the one who killed her mother and all the other healers that were on the continent. And so she's like, I'm going to decide if I'm going to help you. But then Yeren speaks to Hafisa, who says, sis, you need to do better. You're going to be a healer. You are a healer. You can't do that. Like, you can't pick and choose who you're healing. You just need to do it. I need to stop looking at the flipping viewfinder. Sorry, guys. I'm going to hide it so I don't look at it as much. Anyway, so she's like, you can't do that. So Yeren inspects his spine and finds that there's dark magic in there and that it's going to actually take a long time to heal. Nesrin goes to see her cousins and her uncle and her aunt, everyone who live in Antica, and Sartak is the one who takes her, who's the prince. Kolb asks Argan, who's another one of the sons of the king, information about what happened in Rifthold, but Argan won't share. Obviously, they all have their own political interests, but also I think it's a good time to point out that all of the king's children have their own little thing going on, because again, like I said, their tradition is that some of them are probably going to be killed, if not all of them, just to avoid any competing for the throne. And so they've all got their little agendas. None of them are like outwardly hurting each other at this point, but the point is that they're like a unit but not a unit at the same time. It's really quite interesting to read. I genuinely really like this book, so I don't know if it was just because I liked this whole narrative that they were doing. But anyway, there's a royal dinner in the evening, and then Cole and Yeren attend, and Yeren is friends with the royals, and Kashin, the prince, is quite possessive of Yurin, because I told you that that he likes her, but she's not really that interested in being intimate with him. Nesrin comes back really late from her trip with her family and stuff like that, but the following day, Yurin has agreed to heal Cole, but she says that he needs to be careful in the palace because there's like anything can happen, there's crazy stuff happening. At the same time, Yurin and Cole discuss the differences between Antika and Ardalan, and then Cole tells her about like Parrington and all of that, and then Yurin tells Cole that she'll be healing him for free. Cole tries to get a private meeting with the Kargan, but the Kargan and his wife are really busy mourning their daughter, and so he doesn't really get to do that. Yurin is studying in the healer's library to find out everything she can about the dark magic that is crawling in Cole's spine, and she finds out a bit about the Valk at that point, but then she feels like she's being watched, and then she hears stuff, and then she finds a dead girl. One of the healers is dead, and she looks a bit like Yurin, and Yurin runs when she hears someone approaching. So basically there's attacks happening on the healers, but it looks like specifically people are that Yurin is supposed to be the target. Anyway, Cole starts his exercising the following morning waiting for Yurin, and then when she gets to his room, she's like really flustered and stuff like that. And then Yurin sends the little chambermaid called Kadja? Yeah, anyway, away so that she can speak to Cole about the girl that was murdered, because they think it was the Valg demons that did it. And Cole's wondering if the Valgs have followed him from Ardalan, and then he's thinking, is it possible that they were saying that the daughter has died and they don't, and like Cashin at least believes that she didn't jump off the balcony, like she didn't self-exit essentially. And so he's like, oh, like did a Valg kill Tumalin or whatever her name is? And then Yurin asks Cole to teach the healer self-defense because she does the teaching. So Yurin's working on Cole's injuries, and it's really like a grueling process, and she's like, maybe this darkness is also psychological, like it's not just like it's not just like the physical darkness that's inside his spine from the Valg. But Cole's like, sis, no. Okay, no. At the same time, we've got a parallel storyline happening, which is Sartak approaching Nesrin while she's in the area, and he offers her a ride on Kada, which is his rook, which is kind of like this like dragon type esque thing. And she agrees, and they do it. By the way, this whole time, her and Cole are like together. Okay, just want to specify this because this is one of my pet peeves a little later. But her and Cole are like together. But they have been making plans that like he's gonna try and find out as much information as he can while he's in the palace, and she's gonna be doing her thing, trying to find out information, and including like getting Sartak on side and stuff like that. Anyway, so so she's like trying to get closer to Sartak, so she's speaking to him about like, you know, the whole situation about the heirs and like his siblings, etc, etc. And then Nesrin and Sartak go to look for a demon together, because a Valg demon together, because why the hell not? They are trying to come across. It is important to say that all of this like siblings have like spies and stuff on the continent, so they all have dribs and drabs of information, and essentially Nesrin and Cole are just trying to figure out what they know and what they can use to like get them to help them in the war. So Cole goes to the tower on a horse. Again, he is paralyzed from the waist down, but he gets there to do help with the self-defense session, and all the healers are really excited. And Yurin starts talking about the injury that Cole has, but Cole isn't happy because he feels like he's on display and stuff, but he still teaches the class. I think it's also important to mention that, as we know, he is now again Lord Carl Westfall, so they're like, oh, he's a lord from Ardalan and all of that, so that's why they're all a bit like, like, you know what I mean, especially because where he's from, Aniel, is like one of the richer domains, I don't know. But yeah, that's what happens. So Yurin and Cole go back to the palace, and Cashin tells them that he's put guards in the tour because because Yurin like was essentially attacked. But Yurin has another go at healing Cole's spine, and Cole sees some memories of his like father being terrible, and Yurin sees like visions about Marath and the armies, and then we also see that Cole's toes start to move. However, tell me why Cole doesn't tell Nesrin. That should have been a red flag. Get the flag down. Who's that? You know that TikTok guy or whatever that he goes running across the field with the red flag. Anyway, but Nesrin goes to visit her aunt and uncle again because she's worried about the Valg attacks with her family. But her family aren't worried. They're like, no, don't worry. Like, they're fine. Don't worry. And then Hassar, I feel like I need to tell you, Hassar is one of the Kargan's daughters. Okay, so Hassar and Yurin discuss Cole and Kashin and the war and all of that. By the way, Hassar and Yurin are friends, so feel like I need to say that. But Hassar basically says to Yurin, like, you're with Cole a lot, see what information he has on Aelin. And Hassar wonders like whether the healer's murder was actually a trick by Cole to like make sure that the Kargan joins the war. And so she's like, I need to know the information. Yurin's not extremely comfortable, but she also can't say no because this is the princess and potentially a future heir. We don't know. So Yurin goes and gives Cole a tour of the city. I would also like to point out, Nesrin had asked if he wanted to go and see her family. He didn't go. And now he's gallivanting around the sea. Anyway, do you see the biases I have here? Anyway, and then Cole and Nesrin attend a party, and Hassar tells Nesrin that we should have separated you guys anyway, like it's rude, like you guys should talk to other people, la la. So she basically moves Nesrin out the way so that Sartak and him sit together, and then I think Hassar is basically orchestrating Cole and Yurin to sit next to each other so that Yurin can get the information that she needs. Anyway, Cole and Yurin chat in the party, and Yurin says, ask for a small hint or something to say to Hassar regarding Aelin so that she could get her off her back. So Cole basically says Aelin could be in Skull's Bay, because he doesn't actually think Aelin will go there. Obviously, we've already read Empire of Storms now, and so we know that's exactly where she is, so whoopsie. And I think he thought that she wouldn't go there because of everything that happened, as we know, in Assassin's Blade with Sam and everything in Skulls Bay with Captain Rolf. So she's like, she's not gonna go there. Of course she actually was there. And that may have actually helped them believe him, but anyway. Where am I in my notes? Oh yeah, Nesrin and Cole fall asleep while they're talking, and Yurin walks in on the next day, and then Cole has to explain that like nothing's happened between them. At this point, I am quite confused why he felt the need to say that, because technically they are together, not like officially, but like basically officially, right? Also, him and like Yurin don't have like a thing. In fact, it's very enemies to lovers situation. Oh, I've given a spoiler there, but it's very enemies at the start. Like, she didn't even want to treat him. And also she has her own little side thing going on where she's got someone who likes her, but she just wants to go back to Ardalan and be a healer, so she's not thinking about like romantic endeavors, etc. So when I was reading this, I was like, why are you telling her, sis? Like, okay, it's a bit, I guess you could explain like, oh, like nothing happened, so she doesn't feel awkward that she's walked in. But anyway, whatever. Yurin has brought a scroll with her which has word marks written on it, and Cole tells her to hide it because he's like, no, this is like big. And then Yurin also tells him that she's learned that there was 2 more Valg kings, not just Erewhon. There was Orcus and Mantix, and they were sent back to their realm, but Erewhon was left here. Is that how you say his name? I don't know. Anyway, and then Yurin sees Cole's memories while she's healing Cole, and she tells him about her mother and like how she was killed, and now the feelings and sensations are slowly coming back, and Cole can now move his whole foot. And then I can't, sorry, this whole scene was too much for me. He still hasn't flipping told Nesrin, right, about the fact that his movement is coming back, which you think he would. Secondly, actually, what is my second point? He hasn't told Nesrin about that. Oh, what was my second point though? I have such a bad memory now. What was literally the thought I was just thinking? I don't know, clearly couldn't have been that important because I now can't remember it. Oh, anyway, so Nesrin is really like, she just wants him to heal quickly so they can go back to Ardalan because she's worried about her family, obviously. But her and Sartak are talking, and Sartak is like, oh, you should come with me too, because him and his like little Rook tribe things, because he considers his family to be more the other tribe and the other where the fly things clans, those clans are, whatever, I don't know what they're called, but those people, he considers himself to be more family to them because he knows he can trust them, whereas he can't actually technically trust his own family because one day they might try to kill him, when one of them is going to take over the throne, whatever. And oh my god, this scene when he's asking her like, oh, do you want to go? And then she's like, okay, yeah. And then he's like, oh, don't you want to go and tell Cole? And then, by the way, Sartak knows that Nesrin and Cole are together, right? Anyway, she's like, no, it's fine, I'll just write him a note. You fucking what? Anyway, I'll be back in 3 weeks. And you know what else she says in the note? And she's like, oh, I won't hold you to anything that you do. Sis, shut up. I couldn't deal with it. Not that I really wanted them two to be together, but I just couldn't. So Cole's a bit sad that he's driven her away, and you know what he's like? He's like, he redeems himself for all of 1 second, but he's like, oh, yeah, like I won't, no, I won't do that to you. Yeah, I won't. I will prove myself. I will prove myself. Anyway, so Nazrin and Sartak have gone off and they're bonding while they're camping out at night, la 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 la. And then Yurin goes to see Cole, and he's in a real bad mood. But Yurin feels like someone's following her, so she barricades her and Cole inside his room, and then Cashin shows up with all these guards and stuff. And then Cole starts training with the Antikin soldiers, his movement slowly coming back. Simultaneously, Nesrin and Sartak arrive in the mountains where the clan is living that he is part of. And Nesrin meets Bort, who challenges Nesrin to an archery contest. And then Bort is very impressed because, as we will have remembered from Queen of Shadows, Nesrin's really good with the bow and arrow. Hello, Katniss Everdeen. And she basically asks Nesrin to teach her. Bort's grandmother is the grandmother of the clan, and she's brought back a man called Falcon, and he is the one also from Assassin's Blade who with the spider silk, the piece of spider silk guy. Anyway, yeah. What am I talking about? Oh yeah, and he basically says that there's evil in the mountains and that nests are being raided by spiders, all of that. And then Falcon tells Nesrin that he bartered a piece of spider silk once in exchange for 20 years of his life, and he regrets it. And then Nesrin wonders if the Kargan ever knew about like all the darkness and everything, but Sartak says that his father is actually too busy grieving at the moment. And then a storm comes, and then they're telling all the stories around the campfire about the world and the creatures coming through the gap and all of that. So we're getting a lot of background story here about what was happening with Erewhon and all of that, essentially. But you don't hear about it straight away. It's not obvious, I mean, straight away. Anyway, and then Nusha, who is the head librarian at the tower, tells Cole and Yerin to go to Asakara Oasis, and there's going to be information there. By the way, this is like in the desert. It's like their family. It's like the Kargan's fam's like summer house, essentially. It's like when the royals go to Balmoral, like that kind of vibe. And then Yurin and Cole go out for dinner. Back in wherever the hell Nesrin and Sartak are, they go to the spider tower, but it's full of traps, and they like head down to the dungeon, and they meet this massive spider who attacks them, but then they're saved by Falcon in his wolf form, because turns out he's a shapeshifter, and then we get hints that he's probably related to Lysandra, and then we later find out that Lysandra is actually his niece. Anyway, whatever. And then they're told about like the other word, like the 3 word keys. It's this person called Honolulu, I don't know how to say her name, who tells them about the word keys, and then they realise that Erewhon has at least 1 key, and then Sartak's like, to Nesrin, you need to tell me everything. Meanwhile, Hussar tells them that Dorian and Aelin have been abducted at Skulls Bay, and Antika's not going to help them. And then Cassian reveals that Captain Rolfe did ask for help from Antika, but that's probably not going to happen. And then Falcon is able to travel because obviously they injured when they were kidnapped by the spidery people, and they learn all that information. He was injured anyway, and then they go to the watchtowers, and that's where they meet Yerin, who is searching for the missing hatchlings. And lo and behold, Yerin is Bort's betrothed. It's really they don't really have much airtime so far, but the little interactions I have seen to them, I flipping love it. It's so flipping hilarious because they like each other, but they don't. It's really quite chaotic. And then Cole attends the Kargan's council and asks to speak to like a foreign trade advisor, and he orders like double the freelancers that are being sent to Aelin and Rolfe. And then Cole argues with Yerin. I don't even know what they're arguing about at this point. And then they kiss. I told you, he redeems himself for literally 1 second. And then Sartak and Nazrin head to like this place to see the hatchlings, and but they get stuck in the web, and the spider starts to attack them. But Kadra flies away, and you'll find out later why. But anyway, Yurin and Cole get the royals to let them go to Ascara for Yerin's birthday, and Yurin and Cole find a Fae burial site there and wonder like if they can find any information to explain how to like defeat the Valg. But Hassar suggests on this retreat basically that Aelin should marry one of her brothers, and then that way they will probably help her. And then Cole explains that Aelin will be marrying Rowan. As we know, Aelin and Rowan are married anyway already. And then Hussar makes a mean comment about Cole's wheelchair, so Yurin chucks her in the water. I'm like, what the hell? Anyway, and then Yurin shows Cole the locket that was given to her by the woman who taught her self-defense, and she was trying to make money to come to Antika. Back with Sartak and Nesrin, Sartak's stuck in a rock slide, and Nesrin and Falcon escape, but then they get caught again by the spiders. And then that's when the spider tells them that they're waiting for their queen, Maeve. Maeve is the queen of the Valg. Plot twist, I honestly wasn't expecting. I had to reread that multiple times. Anyway, then the spider tells Nesrin the whole story about how the 3 Dark Kings fell in love with that one king, and Maeve married the oldest, who is Orcus, but then she got bored and wanted to explore the other worlds. So then that's how Maeve ended up here, and she basically disguised herself as one of the Fae Queens, and that the spiders followed her, and that Orcus made these 3 keys to control the gate so that he could search for Maeve. Maeve finally found a land that was ruled by the Fae Queen, so that's Mab and Marla, and she manipulated them to make them believe that she was their 3rd sister, so she's not even their sister. And then the Valg Kings arrived, but they didn't even recognize Maeve because she was in her like fake Fae form, and Maeve defeated them and took the keys, but she didn't get to banish Erewhon because Brannon showed up and like took the keys, so messed everything up for her basically. And then the other riders arrive because Kadra's gone to get them. Why do I keep doing this? And Falcon asks Nesrin to help find his niece, Lysandra, and then they leave where they were burning. Anyway, and then Cole finds that his room has been searched when they return back to the palace, and Hafisa shows Yurin a bunch of books about word marks, and Yurin plans to take them to Cole so that he can read them. And now Yurin is fully healing Cole, and they make love to each other. I'm sorry, they hated each other. Okay, to be fair, it was a wayward hate because he didn't actually do anything to her mom. But also, sorry, Nesrin. Also, Nesrin's doing her own thing as well, but still, it's crazy. Anyway, Nesrin asks Falcon to come north with them because she says, I think I know that your niece is there. And then Cole asks Nesrin and Sartak to also come back to Antika quickly. Like, they need them to come back quickly. And then Cole tells Yurin about Aelin and her fire, and Yurin suggests that maybe her healing could save people who are infected by the Valg. So that is possibly one of the reasons why she's being attacked. And then Hassar tells them that Aelin defeated Maeve's fleet, and people are now joining her forces. Obviously, we know that actually Maeve has kidnapped the real Aelin, and it's Lysandra pretending to be Aelin, who everyone has seen. Anyway, Duva, again, please, I feel like I didn't even mention her earlier, but she is mentioned periodically throughout the story. But Duva is also the Kargan's daughter. She's the only daughter, or the only one of the children, who appear to be married to a prince from the continent, and she is pregnant with a child. But we now find out that Duva is the one who has been infected by the Valg, and she binds Hafisa and traps her beneath the library because she knows that Yorin will come and looking for her. And then Duva admits to killing her younger sister, aka Tumalila, whatever her name is, because the younger sister became suspicious that there was something wrong with Duva, because the way Duva got infected was when the gift was sent to her, her wedding gift was sent to her, they knew that she would put on the jewellery, and when she did, she became infected, essentially. Anyway, and then Duva reveals that Maeve has been keeping healers nearby, and that Erewhon is after Yarin, and they want her. Anyway, and there's a big fight, and then Duva pretends to be knocked out, and then she tries to attack Yarin, but then Cole shields Yarin and is shot back in his back with darkness again, so anything that they did try to heal is no longer healed. And then the other healers come and they help, but then Yarin binds her life to his life, so this will allow his spine and legs to work when Yarin isn't completely tired, so they're all linked up now. Anyway, and then this whole situation is told to the Kargan, and then Kashin asks Yarin to heal Duva with her power to remove the Valg, so she does, and then Yarin fights a demon and wins, and also saves the baby. And that after all this, Antika agrees to join the war against Erewhon, and then Nesrin's father and sisters come from Rifthold to Antika, and she's happy that they're safe and all of that. And we also find out that the Kargan has now decided on who his heir is going to be, and it's going to be Sartik. And Sartik tells Nesrin that he's appointed her, he's been appointed as the heir, and now also them two are a couple. So essentially, she's going to be the future queen of, or Karganess. I don't know what the words are. Also, at the same time, I don't know what the time scale of this whole period of time is. I'm going to assume it's a couple months. Anyway, now Cole and Yarin are married. Please stop. And they're going off to join Aelin. And Cole looks at the note from Yarin's locket and recognises Aelin's handwriting. And he realises that Aelin is the one that saved Yarin all those years ago. And so he tells her, oh, the person who saved you, we're going to go and see her, basically. And like I said, they're all going to help in the war, so now there's going to be a big coming together. Anyway, I said I was going to be quick, and I have still gone and talked for 30 minutes, but you know what? I feel like I did a very good job. Pat on my own back. Okay, right, that's it now. I look so tired. Oh my god, I kind of look oily. Anyway,